In a wave of leaked emails, it was revealed that everyone's favourite eco group, Just Stop Oil, had planned to recruit more than 500 university students during Freshers' Week. And the plans were for the students to take part in slow marches where more than 3,000 people aspired to be arrested in order to overwhelm the police. But fear not, they weren't going to send these students in without preparation. The group also called for students to attend non-violence training prior to taking part in this civil resistance, including how to handle being arrested. Exactly what every parent hopes their child will get out at university. But joining me now to discuss this is the writer Charlie Bentley-Astor. Charlie. Now, you are uniquely placed, I think, to talk about this insofar as you graduated relatively recently, so you were a student up until recently. What is the sense among the student body about eco-protests? Is it just accepted that this is, you know, a kind of groupthink? Everyone feels this is the right thing to do? Oh,
it's a given. And if you challenge the ideas of climate change and the extent to which it's anthropomorphic, i.e. caused by humans, you're denounced as a climate denier and, you know, shunned from the student community. OK, and I'm sure that's wrapped up with all sorts of other high-status opinions across the board, right?
Yeah, okay,
yeah. So you can't, you know, be an eco-warrior without also believing in gender ideology, without ascribing to critical race theory, this kind of thing.
Yes, it is odd when you meet someone who holds these views. You can pretty much predict every other view they've got on every other subject.
And their fashion sense.
And their fashion sense as well. So you were kind of a heretic, I suppose, as a student.
I didn't start out that way. So when I went to university, I was the blue-haired Marxist, well, not blue, but bright orange. And I ascribed not to Just Stop Oil, because they're a very new sort of group, but I ascribed to Extinction Rebellion, you know, sat there scribbling the cross on my notebooks and all the rest of it, putting out the Facebook posts.
You were doing social media work for them effectively? Yeah. That's very interesting. So what's changed?
I grew up, started paying taxes, but yeah, I sort of I got taught the other side of Marxism, which is the not the utopia, but the death in the millions, and thought, what else am I being lied to about?
Very interesting. OK, so, but, you know, the activists will say, and they do say, that we are facing a climate catastrophe and that, you know, climate change is happening, climate change is real, and we've got to do something quite urgent about it. Chris Packham he did the documentary about whether we should actually break the law, whether that should be a legitimate thing at this point. Do you see their point?
No. I've since picked up a more reasonable view of climate change, mainly since the cost of living has gone up. I've looked at the costings of these environmental challenges, but also things I was told in school. So when I went up to secondary school, the first thing you get taught about after basic biology is climate change. And we were sort of told that by 2015, there would be no home for the polar bears left, and that's been and gone, and the polar bears still have a home. And I also challenge the extent to which climate change is caused by humans and how much we can do about it. And I don't see it worth bankrupting the nation, particularly when we make up 1% of carbon emissions in the world, to make no difference.
So why do you think Just Stop Oil is targeting students particularly? It looks like, I mean, these leaked emails would suggest there's a very conscientious drive to go after young people.
I think young people are impressionable, and the older activists in these groups know this and are frankly preying upon it. The young people's need to contribute to society. And I think this all comes from the fact that young people haven't had enough boundaries growing up, and so they've been historically had their parents to push back against, their school, their government.
Yes.
You know, we think about all these protest songs, it's always been against these authorities, but now these authorities are young people's best friend, and so now young people are lashing out for something to push back against.
That's
and the only thing that they've come up against is Mother Nature now, and so what bigger project to push back against than the death of the entire world? So
it's a kind of rebellion, a need to rebel, which is a kind of urge that many young people feel.
I think it's the need to be told no every once and again. So I think young people define their identity in a negative formulation. So they go, I'm not that, I'm not that, I'm not my parents, I'm not this political group, I'm not that political group. And where no one is saying no to anything these days, students, young people are lashing out harder and harder, waiting, almost praying for someone to go, no, that's unacceptable.
So do you think that something ought to be done about it if Just Stop Oil are actively trying to recruit students in their hundreds? I mean, is there something that can be done about that? Is it just about opening up the marketplace of ideas? Because from what you say, it sounds like having a conversation about these issues is in itself quite difficult.
It is, and, you know, like you, I'm a free speech absolutist, and to the furthest extent you can be. And so, you know, I think just like every other society, you know, if there's a student Extinction Rebellion Just Stop Oil contingent, then they're allowed to go and set up a stall the same as anyone else. What I would question is the adults who are orchestrating this whole movement and their motivations for recruiting young people and instilling them with this kind of this deep set paranoia that they're going to die.
So what's the solution? Because, you know, I've spoken to young people who do feel that we are in the midst of basically Armageddon is around the corner. It's not an inauthentic view. They feel it quite genuinely. Mm-hmm. And, you know, they might be right, I don't know. But, you know, how can you have a conversation when someone has actually ruled out the opposite side of that debate?
Well, I was one of those people. I firmly believe, I was deeply nihilistic because I thought, the planet isn't going to be here in 30 years and the adults in the room aren't being adults in the room.
You genuinely believe that?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. And so what it took for me is hearing some of the counterpoints and the counter-arguments. You know, for example, wind turbines have a, you know, approximately 17.5-year shelf life, and they cost an extortionate amount to take down. And so what we end up having is these killing fields of decrepit turbines, you know, falling apart and rusting, this testament to the failed project of net zero, because they don't do what we're told they do. And so just bringing that counter-argument, as you say, can at least sow the seeds of changing in the mind.
So the answer is more conversation, more free speech.
Yeah.
Who would have thought it? Charlie Bentley-Astor, thanks very much.